Hey, what's up everybody? Alright, so we're continuing the E85 conversion, and today we're going to work on cold start and basic drivability stuff. So let me tell you a little bit about what happens during a cold start. Basically, it boils down to basic physics, okay? So you're not burning the liquid fuel, you're burning the vapor fuel. Well, fuel evaporates at a specific rate based on temperature. When things are cold, it evaporates much slower. When things are hot, it evaporates much quicker. To get the engine to start, it has to burn vapor, enough for it to turn over and run. Now, once things start to fire, things start to warm up and that process starts. However, for that first initial hit, in order for that to happen, there has to be enough vapor. You create it by dumping in more fuel, basically, because that fuel is still going to vaporize at a specific rate. You just need to create enough vapor in order to get it to hit. And that's what they call as the initial crank pulse. Now, the initial crank pulse table, that's the first, squirt that hits before the motor actually starts running. So it'll keep injecting this amount of fuel that you prescribe until the motor actually starts. Piss, 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 and then it finally hits. So what you have to do is you have to set that table up based on coolant temperature. The warmer the coolant is, the hotter it is, the less fuel you need to create the amount of vapor you need to start the car. So let's get started. Alright, so let's go ahead and turn it on. There's going to be a lot of beeping from this oil gauge, guys. I'm sorry. Send ProSport an email and tell them that their gauges are fucking annoying. Alright, so you see 86 degrees, we're at 8.6. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way through this table. Basically I'm going to try and start it and turn it off in each section and work our way through as we go. So let's start with the first one. I don't think that was very good. Alright, so we're at 8.6. That didn't seem like it was enough. Let's try 10. See if we get a difference out of that. Alright. That was a little better. I think we need a little more. I'm just going to do this quickly. So let's go 11. And we'll slope this up through here, because we know we need at least 11. Alright, let's try that. There we go. Alright, so 11 is pretty good for that one. Oh, it died. Why did it die? Well, let me show you. Flex warm-up enrichment. Now what this is going to do is this is going to add the extra fuel in there that we need, in combination with start extra decay and start extra temp. This kind of slopes it in. This flex warm-up enrichment finishes it off. Right now our temperature is at about 176 degrees, so that puts us at 4.9 for the initial crank pulse. Start extra versus temperature, 2.9%. We don't really need that extra. Start extra decay, 2.1%, or 5 seconds, I'm sorry. And then flex warm-up enrichment is at 15%. Let's go ahead and start it. Much better. I don't think we need the start extra as much though. That's probably where that bang was coming from. See, now look at our idle. We got it set dead nuts in, 14.7, super smooth. Just let it get to operating temperature here, 180. Alright, and we should be able to hit the throttle. Go into our flex fuel. It's obviously too much. 1.8. Take a little fuel out. 13.4, let's go 1.7. There we go. now, because we changed that, we need to go back into flex start. Probably add a little bit more enrichment throughout this whole thing. Let's go ahead and add 5% to make up for the changes in the fuel map. There we go. Alright, so now we gotta let the car cool down, and we're gonna try it all again. To help the car cool down quickly, I got all my fans here, giving it a nice blow. That should get things back down about an hour, come back out, try again. Okay, so it's been about an hour, hour and a half. If we take a look here, you'll see that the coolant temperature is back at 100 degrees. Alright, so let's go ahead and give it a start. And let's make our adjustments. That seemed pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that one. Pretty good AFR. RPM staying consistent. Right on target where we need to be. Coolant Temp's at 110. So when it gets to 122, we're gonna shut it off and try again. 113. We could probably take a little fuel out of it. Alright, so we're at 122. Let's take out 5%. Let's bring that down to 15. Start extra decay. Let's bring this down to 7.6 seconds. Start extra versus temp. We probably really don't need that much, because we were getting that bang sound earlier, you know. So let's take all this down to, from 140 forward, let's take it down to 5. And then initial crank pulse, we're still at 5.3. It's a pretty good spot. Alright, see what we got. That's good. 12, okay. No, we're fine still. Not too rich, not too lean. Idle's pretty stable. Let's see, our temperature's at 130. Once we get to 140, we're going to stop it again. Okay, so after the start delay kicks in, it jumps to 14.7. 138, 140. Alright, let's shut it down. So everything seemed okay. I think we can take the start extra decay down a little bit. I don't think we necessarily need... Oh, you know what? That was actually flex O2 feedback. I'm sorry. So yeah, see, it brings up to 14.7. So if you go into our O2 feedback table, you'll see that the O2 feedback coolant minimum is at 129. So whenever it's over 129 degrees, the O2 feedback is going to kick in, as long as it's at least 15 seconds after startup. So I think that we could probably take this down a little bit. This seems like these values are too high. I don't really like those. Let's take those down a little bit so we get to 14.7 quicker. Alright, so I think that these values, this O2 feedback time versus temp, let's take that down a lot lower. Let's take that, so 30 seconds, anything underneath, well, It only kicks in at 122. So let's, from 140 forward, let's drop that down to 5 seconds. No, let's go 8. Because if it comes up and then it comes back down, settles, 8 seconds should be right about where we need it. Alright. So now that we got that, let's go back to the flex start table. 5.3 at 140. We probably don't need 5.3 there. We can probably get away with, like, let's go, let's see, it's 4.9 there, 5.3 there, let's go 5.1 here. No, it defaulted to 4.9. Well, it's 5.1. That value gets screwed up sometimes. Start extra versus temp. I don't think we need to mess with that. That seemed pretty good. Start extra decay. 7.6 seconds. So then at 7.6 seconds, right after the extra decay is over, the O2 feedback will kick in. And then also, okay, at 140, 158, 176, we're still at, 15%. So we could probably drop this down to 15. Alright. Let's see what we got. Up to 14.7 we go. Oh. Maybe we need to space that, see, that's no good. Okay. So what we got going on here is no good. That's no good. We don't have enough fuel. So in this area here, we could use a little bit more enrichment. Let's go ahead and bump this up to 17. And the reason that these values are going to change is because if you look at the idle based on coolant temperature, we just dropped from 1500 to 1300 to 1200. So the idle, it's not bringing in as much. Well, you know what? It's not bringing in as much air. Maybe we don't need as much fuel. Maybe we need to come down a little more. I'll tell you what. Let's put this back to 1500. That way we don't have to deal with that until it actually warms up. We'll eliminate that problem. Now let's go back into flex start. Alright, so we're temperature wise 144. Let's put this back to 15 and see if it still does the same thing as it did before. Let's eliminate that O2 feedback from coming in too soon. I think that may have been part of the issue here. Let's bring this up to 12 seconds, up to 176. Give us just a little bit more time to space out between start extra and when the O2 feedback kicks in. Start extra decay is still at 8 seconds. Alright, let's give it another shot. Doing good. O2 feedback should kick in here shortly. There he goes. Bringing it up to 14.7. Looks like we eliminated that stumble. Now let's watch our coolant temp. We're at 149. The next pit stop is 158. Why are we going up? Okay, so it just jumped a little bit. That was weird. We might need more timing. Let's take a look at our flex ignition map. Yeah, see we're at 31. That's probably too much timing to be quite honest. Let's set that back at 25. Oh, what do you know? It's problem solved. Alright. so let's go ahead and slope that in. 12.3. I think we're at our next coolant stop off. Yeah, 165. Alright, so let's look at the flex start again. 165 puts us in this area here, 4.9. That seems fine. Start extra versus temp. Let's go ahead and let's slope these two values here. The temperature zone's between 176 and 140. I'm gonna slope that way it evens out. We'll go 3.9 on start extra versus temp for the 158 zone to smooth that out. Start extra decay. That's probably fine. Flex warm up enrichment. Now we can probably start to taper this off a little bit. So let's take out 10% here. Let's see what that does. Now let's also go back and check on our idle. So we're starting to bridge down into the 900 here. I tell you what, so let's yeah, idle at 900 is fine. I like that. Let's go ahead and let's slope this a little bit better. Let's see if we get that surging again. The problem is that the resolution on this map here between 158 and 176, 194, like that's a big gap there. So let's go ahead and bring this up to 1000. And then it should even out operating temp right between 900 950, which that's fine. Give us a little bit more oil pressure. All right, let's see what we got. Idle target 1300, 1150. Keeps bringing it down, bringing it down. No, don't die, don't die. Just hold on. Okay. So, enrichment's back to 13. Let's go back and look at that idle. Now our idle's dead nuts on. So the thing about idle and startup is that it's never going to be perfect. It just needs to start and not die. We're pretty much right on target with our idle. AFR is, it's close enough. 14. I'm fine with that. I don't really give a shit about fuel economy. We're at 172 here. Let's look at that flex start map again. 13.7, start extra decay. Alright, so now we're at 174 as far as coolant temp goes. Let's check our initial crank pulse since we're in the next zone. Now with this one being at 176, so we were fine at 4.9 before. Now there is a finite zone where this just needs to be what it is. I think that we can... Alright, so we only got 2.9% start extra, 5-second start extra decay, flex warm-up enrichments 13.7. We could probably take that down to, let's take it to 13 even. Actually, you know what, let's go 13.2. Okay. Let's go ahead and bring this down to 4.8. Set that one at 4.7. Alright, let's go ahead and start it and see what we got. Okay, so that is this 13.7 value. Let's bring that up to 14 again. Alright. That's that gap between O2 feedback and the start. So we're trying to fill that in right there. Now our idle's down to 900. We should be at operating temp. Yeah, 180. Okay, let's look at the idle. Yep, 975. We could probably take a little bit out of this. This is how much the throttle thing's going to open. No. Let it settle for a second. Well, 14.5 is what it likes. So we'll leave that alone. Second to stabilize. Why are we stabilizing? Let's just set this at 1,000. There we go, much better. Alright, so our idle's set at 1,000. That's what it likes. I guess with the 85, bump it up a little bit. Let's take a look at our flex ignition. 19 degrees. You know what? We could probably bring this up. Let's go 21. No, let's go 20. We're getting a little too much surge, so it's going into these lower cells here. Set that to 20, we should be much better. Yeah, the ignition timing stabilized off. Alright, so let's look at the, so now that we're warmed up, flex start, we're probably bouncing between, yeah, this 13.7 value and this 0 value. Again, this is that resolution shit, so, you know, it's a give or take type thing. We can go into the flex fuel table here. We can bring this up a little bit. Let's go 1.9. See, fixed it. We're at 13 on the AFR. Let's go 1.8. And there we are, we're back to 14. Okay, so now we know our idle, 1,000 RPMs, sitting the way it should. AFR is about 14. And we went through the whole cycle of the cold start. So guess what? Now we're gonna cool the car down and we're gonna do it again. Yeah, this is the thing about tuning cold start. So let me let you in on a little secret here. The guys who are pro tuners that do this, you know, for a job, the big names, you know who they are. These guys are excellent tuners because they do this so much. And that's also why those specific tuners like to have specific platforms. And it's because they develop base maps. I'm sure you've heard that term before. Well, a base map is basically a preset calibration based upon the mods that are on the car. That way they don't have to spend a whole day tuning in your cold start because you have bigger cams and a bigger turbo and E85. Now for guys like me who I'm just tuning my own car, well, this is something that I actually have to do. And you'll also find that those bigger tuners and stuff, they only want to tune to their specific platform. It's because they don't want to waste time doing what I'm doing here. As you've seen, it's going to take probably 3 cycles. Cold start, warm it up, start it all along the way. The second one is a little bit more refined, and the third one should be dead nuts on. And by then we're done. But that took a whole day. Alright, so it's day 2. That's right, day 2. It does take a while to get the cold start procedure taken care of for E85. And honestly, it's the same for 93. When you're working with standalones, you don't have the luxury of the factory setting all this up for you. Like when you guys do open source tuning on ECUs that are from the factory, or you use you know, Cobb and stuff like that, most of this stuff is already preset, and all you have to do is just make a couple adjustments. But when you're doing a standalone, it all starts from scratch, which is cool though, because you get to completely customize how you want it to be. You can completely customize it on the OEM ECU, it's just that you don't really need to. So this is the 3rd iteration. This should pretty much be done. There might be a few little hiccups we have to work out, but let's start up the car and see how it does. Alright, so first I want you guys to take a look. Coolant temp is at 90, air temp is at 88. I don't know why that's bouncing around, but the car is cold, even though those two things should be the same. When I first turned it on, it was 88, 88. I guess it's warmed up a little bit. So let's go ahead and go back into Flex Start. Now what we're gonna want to take a look at here again, initial crank flex pulse. If you guys remember, this is the original amount that gets pissed into the cylinder to start it. So we're at 7. At 104 degrees it takes 5.3. I don't know if we necessarily need 7, so let's just go ahead and try and start it and see how it initially hits, and then we'll turn it off and see if we can take some out of it. I think 7's pretty good, to be quite honest. Alright, so AFR's pretty good. That's good. So the closer to Stoich, the faster that it'll warm up. You want the car to warm up basically as quickly as possible. So what we got going on here is actually really good. Let's take a look at the settings that we have. Start extra versus temperature. This is a trim value applied to start, so it's 20%. Start extra decay is a time modifier. So when we started it, we had 15 seconds of extra fuel. Yeah, this is doing really well. This is exactly what I want. We're holding our target RPM is pretty good. Idle target 1600. We're hitting that spot on. 1500 there, 15, 16. She's warming up. We're at 131 degrees. Now when it crossed over into 130, did you guys hear it dip? Okay, so that was the, most likely this flex warm-up enrichment. Changing along with the idle target. Yeah, so we jumped into this 140 cell. It was at 25%, so that's a 25% modifier on the fuel. Then it drops down to 20%, and as it gets to 158, it's going to go to 10%. Now, if you notice now, it's a little bit leaner. And the reason that we can do that is because the combustion chamber is hot enough to atomize that fuel vapor and do what we need to do. Let's see. I don't really like it dipping into 16, but whatever. It's still running, that's fine. let's see, what's our idle target? Idle target is 1500. Engine speed still at 1500. Alright, so we're good there. Idle target just dropped to 1200. We're at 1200. Now let's look down here in this warm-up enrichment. Let's see, we're at 160 degrees. Now remember, O2 feedback's going to kick on at 170. So once that happens, this should jump up to 14s most likely. I have the AFR target set to 14.3. Alright, so we're in the 13s now. We could probably take a little bit of fuel out of here. The problem is that the transition from 158 to 176, you know, we needed that extra fuel when we were coming from 140 to 158. The resolution in this warm-up table is not good enough, so this is just a, I don't know, it's just a problem with the ECU, I guess if you could call it a problem. The car's still running. It's still warming up. Let's see, our idle target is 1,000, and we're idling at 1,000. Alright, what's our temperature? Temperature's at 172, and there goes the, so the fuel trim should start to kick in here and bring it up. It is a little rich in this area, but, yep, see, there we go. Now she's coming up. Again, as that combustion chamber starts to heat up, you're going to get a better atomization, vaporization of the fuel, and that'll be reflected in the AFR. Now there is some workarounds for this. If we want it to be a little bit leaner, we can add timing, or we can bump the idle up a little bit. Personally, I think that this is fine. I mean, we could probably bring the idle up to like 1300 until it hits actually operating temperature. It seems like it kind of slowed down a little bit here. Like we're just at 176. 180 is my op temp, so, and it's 4 degrees difference though. It's not really a big deal. Alright, yep, there we go. So now we're idling at between 13.8 and 14.3. EGTs are at 500. She's warmed up. So there you have it. That is how you cold start tune for E85. I use the term cold loosely. This is Florida. It is September. The coldest I could get the car was 86 degrees, 88 degrees. That is by no means cold for E85. However, all these same principles apply. If you're trying to start it and it's super, super cold out, all you got to do is just add more fuel, find that sweet spot right where the vaporization is enough for it to fire. Once it turns over, keep your RPM high enough, that way the combustion chamber heats up. And then once you've got that heat internally inside of the motor, you should have no problem vaporizing the fuel to create the combustion process you need to keep your car running. It's the whole point of a cold start tune, is to make it run, make it warm up, make it be good. So if you guys have any questions, post them below. For those of you that stuck in through this whole video, I know it's long, but there's a lot of good information, and I wanted to show you guys the actual procedure for this, and I think you'll find it pretty beneficial. So also wanted to say thank you to everyone who is a member of this channel. It's $5 a month. It really helps me, give me the extra budget to be able to do this stuff. You know, doing all this stuff in the car is not cheap, and any way that, you know, I can get some help on the side, I really appreciate it. So if I've helped you, you help me, everybody's happy, and we can all run on E85 and have all sorts of corn and big boosts and all that. So next we're going to do drivability, and then we'll be able to turn the boost up and see what this clutch can hold. Alright, have a good day, guys. See ya.